How's it going, my fellow geeklings? My name is Scott Anthony Christie, the Auburn Phoenix, and today we are bringing you a brand new edition of the T-Stories podcast. I say we because this time I am joined by Mark James, my good friend from previous podcasts and videos. You alright, Mark?
Yeah, I'm very good. Happy to be here.
I don't want to bring the mood down, unfortunately, but that is part of today's topic.
As you all know, Stanley passed away yesterday, and we are planning on doing a podcast as a tribute to him.
It's not as sad as we imagine it to be because he did die at the grand old age of 95.
He's had a very good long life, and he's got a legacy that loads of people are going to remember, so if anything, we'll appreciate him a lot more now than we ever did.
I mean, he did create one or two famous characters. Apart from that, nothing else really. Not much note. Only joking.
I'm not going to see any more cameos in the Marvel movies.
I remember reading something like months ago saying that he had recorded a big bulk of like cameos like for future films. But I don't know how many that is. Although it was confirmed that his cameo in Avengers 4 had already been recorded.
Oh, at least then we can celebrate that.
Yeah.
It'll definitely touch a lot of people.
I got a feeling like for the next couple of Marvel films, or pretty much like every Marvel film from now on, it's literally going to be like at the beginning or the end in loving memory of Stan Lee.
I'd be happy with that. He literally became the grandfather of most of Marvel's creations.
He pretty much created every notable Marvel character that people talk about today. Like, you've got Spider-Man, you've got the Hulk, you've got Iron Man, you got the X-Men, Doctor Strange, loads and loads of characters, a huge catalogue of it, and it was the combination of himself and Jack Kirby.
And fair play, he did have some good connections as well. Like, I know he used to be very good friends with Bob Kane, who wrote Batman.
Yeah, that was a lot of people like just saying like for years, like disputed. It's like, oh, DC versus Marvel. Well, not really. Him and Bob Kane were very good friends.
Yeah, I think even Stan Lee made his own version of Batman, whereas a man transformed into a bat.
I was actually thinking then of like the combination series that people started doing. So it was like literally when Marvel and DC done like a merger for like a couple of one-off specials, and there was like one where Wolverine and Batman were the same person, and I think he was called Batclaw.
That sounds like a really good, cool complex.
I actually bought a issue with that. I think it was Geeked Fest or the. No, it wasn't Geek Fest. It was the replacement Newport Gaming Convention that we went to.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I'll lend you that. It was a really good read. I enjoyed that. And then you had like the Joker merged with Sabretooth. That was quite funny.
That still haunts me. Just the whole thought of it just like traumatizes me for life.
Yeah, one little offspring we never thought we'd see. This is essentially just an episode just talking about and celebrating the life of Stan Lee, because like he shaped a lot of people's childhoods and even adulthoods like today. Like comics are a big part of mine and Mark's life, for example.
He's the very reason I actually started getting into Marvel comics. I started reading comics at a later age, but I always had like the Spider-Man games. I always watched X-Men animated series and everything like that, and the fact that I know he helped contribute to that is just amazing.
The animated series of Marvel always was a big part of my life, like the X-Men animated series. Like I've got the full box set upstairs. I'm not ashamed to admit that. Like I grew up watching the Spider-Man series in the 90s. That was another great contribution. Everything else, like the comics, like I read, even like the annual. Do you remember like the Christmas annuals they used to bring? Well, they always bring out every year, and it's just like a combination of random stuff.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah,
I had tons of like the Marvel ones and just learning like so many different facts about like the creations of the characters and all that sort of stuff. It was just mind-blowing.
One thing that brought me more to loving Marvel, because like I said, I'm originally a DC fan, but I took a huge shine to Marvel's dark stuff, you know, like Daredevil and the Punisher.
Oh yeah,
I've got 2 volumes of Punisher Max, and I've got Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, and I just love them. I could literally read them over and over again.
And that's why I think he lived to such a long age, because he just enjoyed doing what he was doing.
Yeah, and that was the main thing. Like, there's one quote I will always remember of him, and it's him describing comics. He says, "Comics are like boobs. Yeah, they're great to look at, but I prefer to hold one in my hand."
It's just that quirkiness I love. I just always loved like the humour that he brought and just the lightheartedness to everything.
Yeah, again, like when we go to the comic shop, like that, having the feel of a comic book in our hand, it's just a great feeling, isn't it? And
yeah,
you know, that's what he was.
You have more of a connection to it.
Yeah. Whenever I read a comic, it's like I'm reading an animated series on it.
Yeah, exactly. You could just feel the pictures coming to life, can't you? And that's just a great thing about just comics in general, because and that's one thing I think Stan Lee had, which connected with just so many readers of all ages, was because he was able to put his own experiences and sufferings and all that into his characters. Like, he openly said the Incredible Hulk is like, everybody has days where like they're the nicest guy on the planet, and then all of a sudden they have this burst of rage and then they turn into like a monster. Again, like with characters like Spider-Man, like he said, like he wanted to create characters that were actually relatable. He didn't want like the typical good-looking characters who always got the girl. Yeah, Peter Parker got the girls and all that, but it took him some time, didn't it?
He was a very quirky geek.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I've always related to Spider-Man, just because like of the tribulations he had to go through and all
That's
that.
what you can say about the Marvelverse. You notice, like with DC, they got like fictionalized kind of like things. You got like Star City, you got Gotham. Like, whereas with Marvel, like a lot of them are like in New York and anywhere. It seems to be like brought more down to earth with people, and people relate to it more.
Oh yeah,
because someone from New York is picking something up from Spider-Man, and he's like, oh, I can relate to this because I live in this area, etc.
Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, obviously, like on a geographical level, like people can relate to that. But the thing I always relate to is the mental capacities of certain characters. The X-Men's always a prime for me, because like I always relate to the fact like of how they're isolated, how people judge them for being different, and like I always have a connection with that because of my Asperger's. And like people say it's like, oh, people with disabilities and all that are seen as different. It's like, well, no, we're all human beings. It's just we all have different capabilities compared to everyone else. That's why the X-Men just resonated so well with me, because yeah, I could understand their like anxieties, the fact they were different, but like I also loved it when they came up and joined together, because that's just the characters they are, and like I could aspire to be like them.
That's what I like about X-Men. Like, they kind of celebrate the imperfections of their powers.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. There's always going to be someone with a different power. But don't worry, we're all together and we're trying to do good. And it's a very powerful message.
Again, that's what I just loved about Stan Lee, just injecting the human side into characters. This is going to sound really weird, but like with DC, it's almost like every character is almost like a god, if you think about it. Apart from like the occasion of like Batman or Oliver Queen, for example.
Yeah.
But I feel like even though with Marvel, yeah, everyone's got like these superpowers and these godlike abilities, it's almost like every single character is human. It's the fact we can identify with the flaws of humanity, but we can also celebrate what's good about the world.
And that science can be dangerous and give you superpowers.
Yeah. I remember he was having an interview with Kevin Smith. Like, this was like back in the 90s or the early 2000s, I think it was. He was saying, it's like when he was writing one of his comics, he was thinking, oh, I'm gonna create cosmic rays. I didn't know what a cosmic ray was. It just sounded cool. Like, that's the thing. You can write comics, not have a clue what it means, and it still sounds good. If I butchered that impression, then please feel free to isolate me in the comments.
You're in luck. It made me smile. It's fine. Everyone can relate.
Yeah, exactly. What's your favourite Stan Lee cameo?
Mine's got to be Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, it's the one, yeah, with the headphones.
When he's got the headphones, because he's completely oblivious to everything that's around him. And Lizard and Spider-Man are just fighting, wrecking the place.
That is a great one. I do love that.
Oh, it's just shot beautifully. And the other one at a close second, Thor Ragnarok, when he cuts Thor's hair.
Oh, yeah. I remember we were in the cinema and we were just laughing our heads off at that.
It's one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. It's like, please don't touch me. No, I'm going to cut it.
A very subtle one I like is the Winter Soldier. He's played a security guard in the museum, and Captain America's nicked his old suit back. And he's just, oh, I am so going to get fired for this.
It's a nice subtle one, that one. I really like that one.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like he didn't have to do much at all. One I do love is the most recent one in Infinity War, where he's driving the school bus. He literally just pokes fun at the fact like this is just a common occurrence with aliens and the city being destroyed. And he's just like, what's the matter? Ain't you kids ever seen an alien invasion before?
Come on, I had this on a Tuesday.
It's like watching the telly for them, innit?
No one in his luck. He probably thought the telly was coming to life.
Yeah. But that's always one thing you could always depend on with like any Marvel film. It's like the fact you were expecting that Stan Lee cameo. You didn't know where it was coming, but you knew it was going to be there, and then all of a sudden it just pops out a surprise.
That was the main thing I was always looking forward to. I was like, how is he going to appear in front of us again? I was like,
especially Venom. Like, a lot of people were very apprehensive, and then Stan Lee pops up and everyone's happy.
he just brings joy to everybody, and it's lovely.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the one thing I absolutely love about... Well, I did love about Stan Lee was, like, you could watch any interview, you could read any article, you could see him in any TV show or film, and it would just always make you smile because, like, he was very insightful and he just had a good mindset on life.
He also made an appearance on Hell's Kitchen as well.
Did he?
Yeah, he was on the chef's table in one of them.
I never knew that.
Gordon Ramsay invited him.
Oh, wow.
And it was a great one. He said, I think this is why they call it Hell's Kitchen.
The only thing that was missing was Matt Murdock.
He couldn't get in, he couldn't see the door.
Brilliant. As soon as I saw the news yesterday, like all over Facebook, I literally went, you know, like those motivational videos you can go and find on YouTube. It's like a compilation video, but it's like always someone talking like positively behind it.
Yeah.
And it was one about Stan Lee. It was made like about 2 years ago. And it was just like a bunch of random clips like from his interviews, but then merging in like clips from the cartoons and the Marvel films and all that. He was saying like about writing, like he never got writer's block because he just enjoyed it so much, and that was one of the few things that came easily to him. And again, that's just another relatable thing. It's like you will find happiness when you're doing what you want to do. He could have easily gone out and found like a job that would have paid the bills and got some cash in his pocket, but it would have felt more like a chore to him. And that's one thing like I absolutely loved about that man, and that's just one of my own mindset. If you're doing something and you don't get the most joy out of it, then life's not worth living.
No, that's the way I want to conduct my life. The worst fear for me is living a boring life.
Yeah, the conservative lifestyle, as they say.
I may have a good pay, like, but I won't have any quality of life.
Yeah, exactly. Going on and talking, like, this is a little side note, like, talking about a theatre company we were with, like, that was touring. You're earning, like, so much money every month and, like, every 2 weeks and all that, but you haven't got the time to do anything with it because you're just constantly working, you're constantly away, and you're just away from the people that matter the most.
And you don't feel like doing anything because it was physically demanding as well.
Yeah.
So on the weekends, if you didn't have to travel anywhere, you just didn't get out of bed.
Yeah, and that brings me on to the next point is when Stan Lee talked about creating the Fantastic Four. Like, he'd always done, like, characters like Solo, like the Hulk, Iron Man, Spider-Man. But then, like, there was a point where Marvel was on the verge of collapse. Like, this was, like, back in the 60s, I think it was. He was saying, it's like, I honestly don't know what to write. And then his wife just said, it's like, why don't you write something that you want to write? Obviously, he wanted to write, like, all the other characters, but, like, he said, do something that you feel personal about. Like, there's no restrictions. You just write, just see what comes out. That's what came up with the Fantastic Four idea, because he hadn't done like a team concept. It was always like solo superheroes.
Kind of nice to see something like really fresh.
Yeah.
To kind of get through that. And now, Fantastic Four, most iconic team up ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All we need now is a good movie.
Well, technically we have got that in the shape of The Incredibles, but unfortunately, I mean, it's both owned by Disney, so... Also, like, that was another thing I saw in a video earlier before you came around. Like, literally Stan Lee said the reason he identified with Doctor Doom so much was because, well, Doctor Doom wore, like, armor to cover up his disfigured body. He felt like Doctor Doom sometimes because, like, of the disfigurements. Not, like, physically, but more, like, internally sort of thing. And so, like, the armor was there to hide those insecurities and all that. And I think everyone goes through that, like, at some stage in their life.
Yeah, it's nice to see, like, these characters have been created over certain concepts that can be absolutely relatable to everybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's fantastic.
Yeah. This isn't me, like, plugging my own stuff, but, like, I've recently started writing my own superhero team, and, like, I don't know whether it's going to be a podcast, comic book, TV show, movie, or whatever. I felt like I got that stimulus from Stan Lee to write about the things that you feel personal about. Like, there's a character in this team up who has Asperger's, but they use, like, their strengths and abilities to overcome the obstacles that other people may not have. So, again, I thank Stan Lee for that.
It's all your fault, Stan.
Yeah. Well, if it fails miserably, then we can blame Stan. But then he'll be up there laughing. It's like, hey, you can't do what I did.
You're a god, may you rest in peace.
Yes.
And I will definitely raise a glass to you.
Yeah, I am not worthy.
I think this is what Stanley would have loved as well, like people just talking about him, remembering all the good things he's done, and the amount of impact he's made on people's lives. And that's what we will cherish for the rest of our days.
Somebody shared a photo earlier. My biggest hero was the person who created all of the biggest heroes, and again, that went down to Stanley, and it's true, because he was a hero in every right, not just comic books, but in every form of media, and also just like mentality in life, because he was just such a positive person. We thought this was going to be a bit of a somber episode, but actually it's a bit brighter than I thought it would be, because unfortunately death is just a part of life, so just make the most of your life is all I'm saying.
Don't waste anything, because after all, life is precious, and if you're passionate about something, please chase it.
Exactly. Like, doesn't matter how unreachable it may seem, just go for it. If you feel like that's the only way that's going to make you happy, just go for it.
And one golden rule, quoting Sean Schammel, don't set up a backup plan, because you're setting yourself up to not try hard enough.
I'll agree with that till the end of my days. But until next time, guys, I've been Scott Anthony Christie, and this has been Mark James, and you've been listening to the T Stories podcast, and let us know what you thought of this episode. What are some of your favourite Marvel comics, or Marvel films, or favourite Stan Lee creations of all time?
Yeah. Please like, subscribe to both Auburn Phoenix and X Marks the Spot.
Mark has his own channel now, where he'll be uploading a lot of music covers and a lot of original material as well. And you are starting up your own podcast, aren't you?
Yes, I am, and it's called Mark My Words. And please leave me a comment on my channel if you want me to cover any subjects.
Yeah, first episode's up already if you want to listen to it. I'll leave a link in this video as well. Until next time, guys, you've been listening to the T Stories podcast. Take care, guys, and keep on living.